trash. No, not you. Trash is a poor man's treasure. Good thing, I'm just that man. So tonight we're diving deep into our scrap box to make a quick and trashy one-day alien diorama. So let's not waste any more time as we channel our inner newt and get to scavenging. Starting off with our Xenomorph, we have a few choices. A crappy custom and a split in half alien warrior. Okay, so I guess there wasn't much of a choice. We go for our quirky alien dog, or yak if you really roll that way. Oh my god, too quirky. We get him in a natural pose and start sketching our dio out. The idea here is a simple but classic scene, that alien melting through the floor. It's not a very good sketch, but you get the idea. As for prep, we only have 2 things to deal with, which is a nice change of pace. So, starting off with the floor, we cut off the extra plastic, sand the edges, and square the whole thing off. With our floor cut out, we can now measure out the base for it to sit on, which, following the theme, is going to be made from some trash high-density foam that's been hiding under my bed for about 3 years.
Nope.
Yep, that's the one. The measuring part is just a matter of outlining our crooked-ass floor onto the foam. From there, I tried keeping things as straight as possible. But call me an ally, cause things did not stay straight. By the 3rd cut, I had to do a quick reload. Reload! Which also didn't help too much, since the whole thing looked like trash. And believe it or not, that's not what we're going for. I go for a take 2 on an even trashier piece of foam and cut out our base off camera without prying eyes. What I did do on screen was sanding, which might have screwed things up, at least on the sides where the holes got bigger. Moral of the story, be gentle with the foam. Thankfully, it's an easy fix using some plastic wood filler. Ultimately, this step wouldn't matter in the long run, but I filmed it, so now you have to watch it. Suckers. Taking a step back, we still have our little Xeno. Considering the floor got squared off, our alien is a little bit too long for our base. So we're gonna chop off the leg, hand, and tail. We put on our surgeon gloves, giving us a +1 to agility, and mark our lines before cutting. We're professionals after all. We surgically dismember him limb by limb, and end up with a beautiful little piece of diorama. But we are trying to learn, so here are the behind the scenes on that. Using the metal cutting tool for the Dremel, we go through the leg and wired tail like acid through skin. As for the hand, the cutoff landed right on the joint, so all I had to do was yank the sucker out. With our alien cut to size, we're able to get a good outline of where things should be. We start off with the gut spill and follow up with the body, leaving behind a dead man's silhouette, which is extremely apt in this case. With our outline on the floor, we can start working on the acid melt effect. My great idea here was to score the floor and burn a hole through it using a lighter. It worked extremely well, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried I was gonna fuck it up. But in the end, it looked just like the acid drip I was aiming for, so no harm, no foul. Keeping in touch with the pyro in me, I go ahead and repeat the process on the foam board, which makes the perfect knot to texture. We make sure that the floor and the base line up, and then prime the foam board using a mix of Mod Podge and black acrylic paint. Now, I went ahead and channeled my inner kid for this, using my fingers to paint the base. You see, the foam and the wood filler are total sluts for any type of liquid, so they'll suck it right up, just like your mom. To be fair, the sides didn't really matter because nothing ever does, but also I hated the rough texture, so I decided I would build a base cover instead. So for that, I figured I'd try using some polystyrene sheets from Hobby Lobby. I've seen Adam Savage use it to make models, and he swears by this stuff. And I can totally see why.
That's amazing.
I was far from accurate, but I was eventually able to get some nice pieces cut out. The other magical thing about this plastic is the way it bonds. No, not like that. I meant the chemical way. So the way it works is with a specific glue, which melts the plastic, binding them together, making for a stronger and instant connection. All that magic aside, we move on to sanding, where I focused on making the edges flush. With our new base built, we can finally prime things using some black paint. I did about 3 coats on the base and a single on the floor. While that dries, we can work on our alien body. Using some epoxy clay, I start rolling out some thin strips and squishing them into guts. I ended up using zombie gore as reference, but you can probably find some better stuff on Reddit. It took a few tries, but I eventually got some good looking guts. The trick there was ultimately placement. It was random, but calculated. Think about it, but just not too much. Makes sense, right? And taking advantage of the extra clay, I went ahead and sculpted an open belly. It's scandalous, but just what she needed. We make sure things line up and move on to painting. And keeping in line with the belly, we start things with some easy black before we move on to our main color. But considering I'm brain dead, it takes me a little while. I eventually say, close enough, and start painting. Now to make things look natural, I added my paint mix to the rest of the alien, blending the whole thing out. I might not know colors, but I know, other stuff. Down at the guts, they get the same black acrylic primer, which in retrospect should have totally been gray. Because we're going to be using a greenish yellow, a combination of 2 pain-in-the-ass colors when it comes to painting. Something about the pigments just make it impossible. So we get to work on that, and I forgot to film the finished piece, so for now we move on to the floor, which gets a messy dry wash using silver and bronze metallic paint. I don't apply the bronze wash until the very end because I'm stupid. But with all the pieces pretty much painted, we can finally start setting things up. Which is just a matter of gluing things into place. Easy enough, right? Well, not if you're me.
Damn it, I fucked it. Good job, Alex.
We managed to salvage things like always, and ta-da! Here are those finished guts I was telling you about. They ended up lining up perfectly, which was unexpected. So, using a little glue, I went ahead and put the guts into place. Then, I went ahead and mixed up a little alien blood, which was more of a yellowish green this time, and speckled that all over, making sure to get the edges of the melt and underneath the hole. And of course, the open belly. While things are looking good, we're still not done. I've been recently playing with resin as a medium, so we're gonna mix up a small green batch for pouring over the guts. We fry some air bubbles and get to pouring. And by that, I mean I use a stick to dab on the resin, avoiding any air bubbles. Cause fuck air bubbles, all the homies hate them. I finish off the guts with a brush, making sure we get every nook and cranny. Like always, I had a lot of leftover resin, so I figured a little mouth strip would be neat. Unfortunately, the resin was way too thin at this point, so I had to wait about an hour before it was thick enough to drip. I didn't film that part, but here are the finished products in the morning after. First off, we have our acid guts, which look phenomenally shiny. I could have gone for a bit more green on the resin, but live and let die. And most exciting of all, we have the drip, which, like I said, took about an hour, but when I finally got it to work, it looked amazing. Then we have his belly, which is also shiny. And to set him up, it's just a matter of lining up the belly with the guts. Now we would be done, but I'm still not happy with the sides. We're still missing that classic industrial yellow from Aliens, so let's go ahead and add that. The easiest way to get those done is by masking out the lines. But since we already added the floor, we're gonna have to mask that off as well. Or so I thought. I realized I could just pull it off since it's just being held together by hot glue, but I forgot all about the resin, so it kind of broke off.
No!
But there's no more time to cry, so we move on to the masking. I had some white paper on top of the foam to keep things as neat as possible, and since I didn't actually have any masking tape, I went ahead and used some electrical tape, leaving that motherfucker looking like the bottom half of a ghast. But here's the cool part. It turns out that the electrical tape is an unintentional callback to my first Alien Diorama video, in which I also used electrical tape. I guess I've been trashed my whole life. To make things worse, we go back to messing with the yellow. Even in spray paint form, it always takes around 20 coats to look good, and it always dries tacky. But our patience pays off as we do the reveal. It's pretty much perfect, but there's still a few spots that need a small touch-up. We take advantage of the tackiness from the paint and add a black wash, making the texture of the polystyrene pop through. And for once, things are coming up Millhouse.
Everything's coming up Millhouse.
We add a little metallic weathering using a silver Sharpie, making sure to get the corners. And lastly, finish it off with a light dusting of rust. With everything done, we can finally reconnect our floor using a little hot glue, just like last time. All that's left is our gutless alien. And that's just a matter of posing. But just like that, we turned a day's worth of motivation and a whole lot of trash into something kinda neat. So yeah, I am kinda proud. This guy works for all your dead alien needs, from Sigourney Weaver to a cyber predator. It takes it all. But too bad there's no room for him here. From trash you came, to trash you shall return! Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. Your mom loves you, and so do I. We decided we're gonna stick together, at least until you're 18. So make sure you leave a like if you had any sort of reaction in this video, and leave a comment telling me how much I suck. I could use some negative reinforcement. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Stay poochy, and I'll catch you on the next one.